Now, that right there is a real Metal Dracula situation.
I've never wanted to have sex with a pot pie, but like, I'd have sex with that pot pie.
We're all weak to stepping on nails.
Let me preface this by saying I wrote a script.
Daytona Beach is like two mild inconveniences from being a post-apocalyptic wasteland anyway.
So many of my tabs say semen.
Are you guys ready for this weird, horny adventure that we're all about to go on?
You can't handcuff me for skanking.
This motherfucker gaslights you.
Diet Coke and Sorrow will be chapter 4.
And against all odds, Kyle, we became those swirly weirdos.
This whole podcast is a very negative mouthfeel.
Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this time, we take show out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video. Fuck it.
In this timeline.
Yep, in this timeline. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how Marissa Tomei's name is an anagram of "It's a Me, Mario."
Shut up.
No.
And
Do the math.
and
Do
we
it.
talk about how she would have been a better casting choice for Mario than Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Pratt.
I'm
I
checking
saw that
your
on
math
Twitter.
right now.
Do it. It took me. I did it. Matt is literally as we.
All right, I hate
Type
it. I
this up.
hate that a lot.
Right. It's great. I saw that on Twitter like 5 days ago, and I was like, I have to put this in here somehow. It's great. So anyone who knows me in real life or through the show at this point knows that I love a good JRPG. I don't hide
What?
it.
No.
You?
It's the one thing. I meet a new person. I say, hello, my name is Andrew
Well-
Henderson. I like Final Fantasy.
The whole time?
Yeah. Now, even more than just that, I love a good JRPG with a litany of semi-related games with confusing naming conventions that also happen to have multiple versions of the same entry that retcon older entries due to rough localization errors.
You can't make us sit and listen to Kingdom Hearts again. We will not do it.
I'll quit
I
this
think he
goddamn
is.
podcast.
I think that's what he's doing.
We're not. So as it turns out, guys, the peanut butter to the chocolate that is my love for Final Fantasy exists in this world, and its name is Ys. That is spelled Y-S.
I was
Ys.
going to ask, how is that spelled?
Yeah, it's
Ye-
Y-S.
Yeast. Do you have the scoop on the Y, or is it East?
It's like geese without the G. Ys.
East.
Okay.
Geese without the G.
Right? Ys is a series of action RPG games that has actually existed since 1987, which is, I think, the same year or within the same year that both the original Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest were released. People who are into JRPGs would know that Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest are basically considered like the granddaddies of JRPGs. So was right at the beginning, right at the ground floor.
Dragon Quest was 86. Sorry, I'm Googling.
You're good. Thank you.
I'm Google checking you as you make these
Yeah, I
wild
appreciate
claims.
it. These wild claims. I think the original Final Fantasy was 87, but the localization might have been 89.
Final Fantasy was 87, and I'm digging too much through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 89 looks like an American release. So
Cool.
there you go.
Yeah, hell yeah. Before we dive into this, as always, I want to first thank the commissioner of this episode, longtime member of Butt Thwomp Nation, Master Spectre, who, in addition to last month's Homestar Runner episode, also commissioned this one as a two-peat. And interestingly enough, they reached out to me. Most of the ones that we do, like for example, when we did One Piece for Kyle's brother, it was like, hey, I don't know what this is. Like, tell me, like, can you kind of break this down for me? Master Spectre reached out to me and said personally, like, they requested this one because they love Ys so much.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
And like, yeah, and like literally just like wanted to share it with our listeners, which I thought was like so absolutely cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like, let me say, like, this is maybe the most sincere thing I've said in this the entire run of this podcast. I am so glad to have gotten this assignment because, oh my god, I love this series. Like, this was so much fun. I am all the way the hell in on Ys.
And you had, maybe you've already said this, maybe you're going to say it in a minute. You had not been
0%.
into it. Okay.
Yeah.
0%.
It was pretty fun to watch IRL Andrew go from, oh god, I've got to go home and play a Ys game to,
Yep.
all right, shut up, I'm gonna go home and play a Ys game now.
Yeah. We'll get into it, but I have since that time finished 2 of them.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Wow.
And these are JRPGs, so
How
it's like 300 hours.
I was gonna say, how many hours
We'll talk-
did that entail?
A little bit different, sporadically different. We'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
Before we get into it, I do want to state, so anybody who hasn't heard last week's episode may not know, we have changed our Patreon. Obviously, the monthly flavor text is 100% supported by supported by our Patreon. And we have changed up our tiers. So if you don't already know, I'm going to quickly just update. So give me 30 seconds, listeners, dear listener. We have 3 tiers of support for our Patreon. So the first thing you have to understand, or first thing you have to know, is we are getting rid of our $2 tier. That it previously was just the Discord server tier. In its place, we are making the $5 Butt Thwomp Nation tier the bread and butter Patreon debate this Patreon. So with Butt Thwomp Nation, with $5 a month, you will get all of the content you already were getting. That's the premium feed, that's the Discord server, that's the live recordings of the Paloozas Loose when they come out. That is not changing. The only thing that's changing is we are getting rid of the $2 tier. We are also really excited. We're going to be adding 2 more tiers. We're going to be adding a $10 monthly tier called Filibuster Sword, which is
That name
adding.
gets me every time.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's so great. We are adding director's commentary tracks, essentially, hosted exclusively through Patreon. And as of this recording, we just tried this out yesterday for the first time. I think it went pretty well.
It was
Decent
great.
success, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
promising concept.
absolutely. So basically, that here's how that works. So what we're calling the director's commentary is extended good vibes. We are every debate this episode, we're going to keep recording 10-15 minutes, and we'll talk about behind the scenes stuff. So last time we talked about, what are all the scrapped ideas. So you get to hear me talk about how I wanted to talk about Bradley Whitford in Get Out because I love Get Out. A very, very, very good movie. The third tier this is probably the biggest change, is anyone who's commissioned a flavor text will know that historically we've been doing a one-time $50 charge for flavor text. So that is going away. In its place is we're doing a $25 monthly tier. So instead of just paying $50 one time and then bumping off and going back down to the $5, instead we're asking people to stay on the $25 tier for 3 months. Once you're on there for 3 months, you'll get access to commission of flavor text. That will help us kind of parse out our backlog a little bit because, surprise, we still have a queue for flavor text, so we're working through it. In addition to that, though, you will also get access to other exclusive content that will also be hosted through Patreon through some means. Full disclosure, we don't know yet what the technicality is on that, so we will keep you posted. Most notably, though, that will be movie watch-alongs. We've been getting a lot of questions about this from our listeners, and we want to be able to do some fun kind of community building stuff. And we thought a movie watch-along would be pretty fun, something that we'll do with a small group. Very, very exclusive. We can't put obviously, because of DCMA, we can't put that out in the general public. But that's something that we could stream it on Discord or something like that. Matt has signed up to do a very similar to the McElroy's Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 annual Thanksgiving-a-thon. Matt has signed up to do an annual Nick Cage Ghost Rider.
I want to be clear that I have zero recollection about agreeing to do that. I will do it. I'm agreeing to it right now, but I don't remember talking
we
about
all
it.
heard it, Matt.
For what it's worth, you brought it up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes more sense.
You did
then.
bring it up. So we're super pumped about that. Last thing. Because it's Spooktacular Express. Hey, welcome. It's Spooktacular Express. I didn't say that before. Because it's Spooktacular Express, we are offering for a limited time, if you get on the ground floor, anybody that either joins our Patreon or bumps up to a new tier will, during the month of October, will also get an exclusive limited edition Halloween edition of our Debate This sticker. That is in addition to the existing stickers that we're going to be sending out already for Patreons that have already subscribed as of October 1st. So if you're listening to this and you are already a patron, 1, thank you. 2, you can expect to get a brand new Debate This sticker and a Buttwomp Nation sticker coming in the mail. We will be reaching out to you individually for addresses. If you're not already a Patreon, I highly recommend that you consider checking us out at patreon.com/debatethiscast. If you get in at least the $5 tier, you will have access to the premium feed, which includes the Office Drones, which, may I add, I'm very excited about because we just started our anime-inspired tournament arc. You will also have access to our exclusive Discord server. You will also have access to live recordings of the Plus is Loose. And of course, if you get in during October, you'll get that extra special limited edition Halloween sticker. Anything else to add, guys?
There is also going to be a special patron-only Halloween one-shot coming out on Halloween to that $5 tier bonus feed. So if you needed another motivation, I don't know what word I was looking for there, but if you needed another reason to get in on the Patreon, incentive, Kyle, you genius. If you needed another incentive to join the Patreon this month, there's also going to be a special Halloween one shot for the $5 tier bonus feed.
Awesome. All right,
we're worth it. Give us money.
Much like so to quote any other podcaster, let's get into it. As always, I'm joined today by my loyal crewmates and forever party members, Matt Cathew Cole, Todd Keith the Demon Thomas.
I like that a little more.
That's amazing.
And Kyle Dark Fact Harper.
That's what they call me.
Gents, let's sail directly towards the raging storm wall that is the massive world of Ys. And as we always do, we're going to start by going around the horn to talk about any of our prior knowledge. And I have literally in my notes, LOL, because I know for a fact that none of the four of us even knew what this thing was. Is that correct?
It's none.
I was convinced until 2 months ago that not even convinced. I was under the impression until about 2 months ago that this was a manga or comic book series and not a series of JRPG games at all. So I'm absolutely lost entirely.
Yeah, what I know is what you've told me, which is nothing. I know that Y can sometimes be a vowel. That's it.
Good. That's a good start.
I would even go so far to say that when you shared that it was multiple games long, I was pretty taken back because it seems surprising to have never heard of this series before.
Yes.
When it has multiple installments.
Amazing.
And from what you said, spoiler, like good, and the really music goes as hard as it does.
That sort of tracks though, because until Super Smash Bros. Melee, no one in America knew what Fire Emblem was, except for the 12 people who.
The difference, though, yes, but the difference, though, and this is what blows my mind, is that the first two games were released internationally.
Oh, wow.
And that's even different than Final Fantasy, which, as we were talking about earlier, Final Fantasy didn't get a localization until 2 years later, and a lot of the earlier games were never released in the US. Ys 1 and 2 were released across all audiences, pretty close together almost immediately after the Japan releases. So it is absolutely amazing that this never took off, and a lot of people, like myself included, I like JRPGs. I like to think of myself as someone who knows what I'm talking about. Had heard of this in name only, just from some people talking about it, and yeah, I mean, like I said, I absolutely blown away. So what is Ys? I have here my headline for this is if the MCU was a JRPG series.
Okay.
All right, Andrew, quick before you get started, I don't know if we have ever covered this on the podcast before, but for people who may not know, do you want to just define what a JRPG is real quick?
Oh, yeah, that's a good call. Japanese RPG. So by definition, yeah, no further explanation. That's it. By definition, technically an RPG that is developed by Japan, but there's probably more to it than that. In the 80s, D&D had just started off, and high fantasy was everywhere, right? And you've got kind of there's this the world of RPGs was very, very small, very, very niche, very, very, very particular audience. Um, Western RPGs, for the most part, were in those times text based mostly, and incredibly crunchy, and very much like Matt always does the joke like look door or get flask.
I mean,
like it's
prime
that.
example, King's Quest.
King's Quest or any of the space, any Sierra game, I think is probably the first major RPGs in the States.
Exactly. And RPGs as a whole were nearly exclusively very, very, very heavily reliant on the PC world, because consoles it was Mario. I mean, you didn't see until Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, or Dragon Warrior, which was until the change to Dragon Quest. You didn't really see anything like that on consoles. With Japan, it was a little bit different because their RPGs and fantasy was a lot more mainstream because of anime. So you had these big influences like Akira Toriyama, and we've talked about Studio Ghibli, right? Like these are both like incredible influences that went mainstream that really got kind of popularized high fantasy, and especially in animation. Akira Toriyama was famously connected to Dragon Quest and Dragon Warrior, which is what it was called. So that that became super popular. But the JRPG as a genre in itself has obviously changed a lot over the years. It's funny because like we've always made the joke that like it's basically like fighting God with the power of friendship. This is not that. Like I want to be very clear. Like we're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Subverting expectations.
Now that I've got your attention, yeah, we're not fighting God with the power of friendship. This is very different. It's still high fantasy. It's still very anime inspired, but it's not. We're not Norton. we got no Norts.
I straight up thought you were making an antivirus joke, and I was like, "What, Norton? I don't get it."
We're not saying Norton. We're not saying Norton.
Andrew, would it be safe to say then that where maybe Western RPGs grew out of like Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games, JRPGs grew out of manga and anime then?
I think that is a safe assumption, although I will say there is a lot of D&D DNA.
Sure. I mean,
in this game specifically.
There are only so many ways to crunch stats.
There are only so many dragons.
Yeah. So okay.
Okay. So what is Ys? Like we talked about, this is a massive JRPG series. Believe it or not, this stretches across 30 plus years and nearly 20 games between.
My.
Holy
That's
shit!
That's like 1/5 of the Bomberman franchise.
Between mainline entries, remakes, remasters, side guide-in games, there's a lot. This series, much like Bomberman until 2012, the series was created and is still owned by the same developer, Japanese developer Nihon Falcom. Have you guys heard of Neon Falcom before? Because I hadn't.
No, but my favorite rules.
It's my favorite F-Zero racer.
Yeah, there it is.
Right. So we talked about, this came out, the original Ys came out in 1987, and it was always in Japan kind of put on the same level as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. This franchise definitely skewed more toward PC players and has for a long time, whereas Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest were definitely more consoles. But unlike those games, you've heard me talk about Final Fantasy, they're all individual stories. Dragon Quest, same thing. They're all individual stories that kind of, are loosely related, have similar themes. The Ys games are actually one coherent storyline.
Whoa.
Amazing.
Not only that, it is one protagonist, and it is like his journeys in a series of just a couple of years.
Oh, dang.
Okay.
Incredible.
We're doing James Bond here.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, and much like James Bond, you've got this again, you've got one major protagonist that is tying through all of these isolated stories. So honestly, I mean, there's a lot of Legend of Zelda inspiration here, but I would go farther to argue like Legend of Zelda is not really like that because it's different Links every time. This is like if Link was the same person each time. So each game is going to be like its own isolated story, but it might reference like a big bad that came from 3 games ago, which is why I say like really think of this like the MCU. You've got your main character, you've got your Tony Stark, but like Tony Stark's gonna go up against a big bad and kill him at the end of the day, but like that big bad works for another big bad that we won't see again for 4 games.
Wow. So is the closest super popular analog then story-wise like Metroid? Is where that's a continuous story with the same main character and references itself, but
yes, I think I see where you're going. We'll dive in.
Sure. Obviously
it's more like
different, but
yeah, obviously it's different. The stories are definitely less about the protagonist and more like you're watching the story play through their eyes.
Okay.
Let's jump in. So we've got, as we always do with our flavor texts, there is an imager gallery. Excuse me. Go ahead if you're listening at home and you have access to a computer and you're not driving. Please click the link in the show notes and you can follow along. I will do my best to number things as we go along. For my 3 co-hosts here, go ahead and pop open. Look at images 1 and 2. This is our main unifying force. This is our main protagonist, our good silent anime sword boy, Adol Christin.
There is nothing defining about this person.
Not Roy. This is not Roy.
I was gonna say you could tell me this looks like it's from Fire Emblem. Not in a bad way. Just it's
he's a good sword boy.
Yep.
Adol Christin, his most defining trait is that he's got fiery red hair.
There you go. He sure has that.
He sure does. Adol is a self-described adventurer, and what's cool about Adol is Adol lives in a world where this isn't a thing. So he is like an explorer in the most pure like Lord of the Rings Frodo sense, But he's like, I want to see the world, blah 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 blah. But like everyone's like, there are monsters out there. Like you're gonna die. Like. This doesn't exist. Like that's not real. He doesn't. Everyone's like people will make comments like, what do you? But what do you do for work?
He's like the van life hippie. He's like the van life hippie of his world.
He is. He is a nomad. He's a D&D murder hobo. Adol, much like any D&D character, he grew up in a small village of modest means, and his village wasn't attacked or anything, but he grew up listening to stories about fascinating worlds, mystical worlds, far off worlds from his father, who also taught him how to wield a sword. Sure. So at the age of 16, Adol just said like peace and set off on a journey just to explore the world, without like a dime in his pocket. He just was like, "Yep, I'm leaving," and his parents are like, all right, see ya.
Taking a gap year to backpack around Europe.
A sword on my hip. Yeah. I'm going to explore the world.
I mean, that's not far off. This is basically it's a gap year. So here's what's really cool is every East game, save for one, is actually like one entry in Adol's life journey. It's like the records of his life journeys. And they all take place between the ages of 16 and 24.
Dang.
Amazing.
Wow. Okay.
Dude does a lot in 8 years.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is super fun. The series timeline, which like, if anybody's heard me talk about the Legend of Zelda timeline, just for a second, the Legend of Zelda timeline is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And people that know me also know that I hate interconnected universes. I hate them unless they make sense. This actually makes sense to be interconnected, and I dig it. The series measures time in units of, how like we have like BC and AD. Time is measured in this series in BC or AC, which is before Christin and after Christin, and I think that's wonderful.
So like before the protagonist and after the protagonist?
After the birth of the protagonist.
That's how Star Wars does it.
Is it?
That's true.
It's like before and after Luke Skywalker, I believe. Well, before and after the events of A New Hope, but yeah.
There's that will make a little bit more sense as there are now 3 different like creation myths that are a part of this lore, which is why it's just funny to me that like we're talking about 10,000 BC, 10,000 years before the birth of this one protagonist. We're going to talk about an entire game. So the world of Ys, is, interestingly enough, is basically a mirror version of our own. It is high fantasy, magic exists, yada yada yada, but the actual world map is pretty much just a ripoff of the real world. Very very heavily inspired. So if you look at image 3, that is the world of. Now it's going to be a little bit confusing because there is no name for this world. There are names for the continents. The world of Ys, the franchise, is incorrect because there is a place called Ys that exists in this world. So I'm just going to say the world. But as you can see, you're going to start to if you can zoom in if you're looking, and image 4 is a zoomed in version of some of it. You'll start to see like there is an Hispani, Spain. There's a Greek. There's the Eurasia continent, which is just Eurasia.
Rom.
Rom. I think I can shed some light on the Rom situation here.
The continent of Eurasia, the continent of Africa.
Amazing. The Alp. The singular Alp.
Yeah, the one Alp. One of the things that I love is in the Eurasian continent, the northern part of the Eurasian continent is just called Europe. It was like, fuck it, it's Europe, who cares? It's really good. Also, there are 2 moons. There's nothing like narrative. There's nothing like that changes the world. Like the tides aren't different. It's just there are 2 moons, and it's fun.
Great.
So in Adol's time, there are 2 warring superpowers. You've got the Roman Empire, but it's spelled ROMUN.
Good.
Hey, if you're gonna copy my homework, make sure you change it enough so they don't know.
A little bit.
And then you've got the Kingdom of Altago, who controls the majority of the African continent. Yeah, it's the Roman Empire versus the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yep. So the world started with just that Eurasian continent and mentions the Africa. And then later in the series, it said, hey, what about America? So in image 4, you get the full world map. I think I flipped them in my notes. I'm going to fix that. Image 4, you get the full world map, which shows the left-hand side. And instead of America, you just see a big old vortex. Now, in this world, America was sunk into the ocean, much like it will be in 50 years from now. So, and much like 50 years from now exists as a scary magical vortex of doom. We're going to come back here in a bit.
It's roughly where the Bermuda Triangle is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there is reason for that.
Good. Great.
Much like, and again, I'll make this comparison a few more times, much like the MCU, the world of Ys, as the new games came out, expanded after every new game introduced some different setting. Again, like Ys 1, Iron Man 1, they weren't planning on bringing in fucking Thanos, but after a couple movies, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's do this. So you get this situation where, the original Ys game had all these MacGuffins that were just like, yeah, it's the magic sword or whatever. And then later was like, well, actually, that magical sword was based on a magical ore that came from this other continent, blah, blah, blah. It's that whole thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a 30-year history of, introducing new settings, retcons, also remakes that retcon things from newer games, recontextualizing everything. We're doing one of these. But what makes this so interesting is that this game has done so many remakes now that it's actually decanonized a lot of its older games, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that. And then I would be remiss if I didn't point out that these soundtracks are absolute bangers. Absolute bangers.
We did. You sent us some of those to prep, and they are they do in fact rip real hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say I played two Ys games, both of which almost nearly to completion. I played Ys 8, and the first zone track. It's called Sunshine Coastline, and It did not have to go nearly as hard as it did.
No.
But it did.
It's got big Crush 40 energy. Like, nobody asked you to, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, a lot of the boss themes definitely sound like better versions of Sonic Adventure tracks.
Yeah.
And they're all like that. There's, that is something that this series is really known for. It's really, really good soundtracks, and all of them are also available on Spotify. So there you go. So after you're done listening to all the Nier soundtracks, you can go listen to this. One more fun little just trivia anecdote. So anyone who's played these games, when you get a treasure chest and you get a special item, a key item in a treasure chest, there's a jingle that plays. This is me putting time in for the jingle. That jingle sounds very much like another jingle from Metroid.
It's not. It's the same. Like, it's not.
Yeah. It's just straight up. Yep, it's just straight up the same.
It's the same as fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I was listening to a podcast, the Fan Bites 99 Potions podcast, which if you like JRPGs, and RPGs in general, definitely check out 99 Potions. Fanbite does a lot of good podcasts. But one of the co-hosts, Imran Khan, pointed out that I guess like the sound designer just was like, they at one point was asked like, "Hey, what's the deal?" And they were like, "Yeah, I just like this. I like the song, or I like the track. So whatever." Cool. You do.
Copyright was much less stringently enforced when we made this game.
Yep.
It's so interesting too to listen to a soundtrack that was made for a PC game versus one that was made for the Famicom. Like, there's just such a difference in audio quality between games that came out at a really similar time.
There super is. Okay, I want to quickly go through all of the games for Ys because before we get into the lore, because there are a lot of games here that, like I said, were decanonized, and it will make sense to understand what games exist before we get into the nuts and bolts. So let's start off with the original game, Ys: Ancient East Vanished, Omen. Naming conventions. So Ancient East Vanished was originally released for custom Japanese computers in Japan in 1987, was then released as Ys: The Vanished Omens for the Sega Master System in Europe and North America, and was also released for the Famicom and NES internationally. The NES and Famicom versions are definitely like ports, like not they are less than.
Yeah.
The official version was what was released for computer systems. Originally, Ys was actually split out into two games for memory. It was originally supposed to be one inclusive, but they basically did a Sonic 3 and Knuckles and released Ancient East Vanished as part 1, and then released Ancient East Vanished, the final chapter, 1 year later as part 2. So the quote official version of this game is the re-release that was put out for the TurboGrafx in 1989.
I cannot believe that the Famicom was even able to run a port of this in 1987.
You can look up videos for differences. It is vastly inferior.
Yeah,
I'm sure. To be perfectly honest, yeah. So the game, man, this game, honestly, like, I loved this game. There's been a few remasters. The most, I would guess the now official remaster was one that was released for Windows in 2009. That one is called Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles, and that had updated sprite work, but also remixed all of the tracks to be pre-recorded. And that also said, hey, what if every one of these tracks had screeching guitar solos and sounded like they were recorded by Van Halen? So that's what they did. And I played Ys 1. I started and finished it yesterday.
Wow.
Nice.
Dang.
It took me about 8 hours. So it's not a very long game. I also had a walkthrough because it's very fucky and because it's a game that was made in 1987.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing about Ys 1 and 2. It uses a system, this very unique battle mechanic that's called the bump system. Let me also state, none of these games are turn-based RPGs. They are all action RPGs. So they handle much more. An action RPG is like The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past,
Mm.
Kingdom Hearts, something like that. So you're button mashing, you're doing things, you're dodge rolling. It's
Things
not
are happening in
turn-based.
real time.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So East 1 and 2, since it came out, has used this mechanic called the bump system. So what you do, you literally just like Adol just runs and just like drives into enemies, and you basically just play bumper cars. You just like truck your way through the whole map.
Neat.
And if you
Okay.
hit them off to the side, you do damage. But if you hit them directly on, you will have damage dealt to you.
Huh.
It's really weird and kind of finicky, but honestly, like I got super into it. It's kind of fun. Especially like because there's a level cap. You only can get to level 10, and each level you get like so much more powerful. So the first time that I got like overpowered and was just like one-shotting everything was just like, oh shit. Just, like,
I am
just kind of,
God.
like yeah, just like mowing down everything. It was much like if I know Todd knows this reference, like when you play Earthbound and you over level and like you get to the point where you don't have to fight anything, they just run away. It's very
You just
much like
crush
that.
everything you touch.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's really interesting. But again, like you can definitely see the D&D roots there. There's a lot of like note taking and like making sure you're remembering peoples and places and like taking hints and talking to every person, because talking to this one person in the pub will give you the hint that like, oh, you need the silver sword in order to do damage to the final boss. Very, very old school Zelda kind of shit.
Okay. Okay.
So that's East 1 and 2. So the official version, all of these games I should note too, you can get on Steam today.
Oh, cool.
So East 1 and 2 Chronicles, as of today's recording, is $4.50 on Steam.
Oh wow.
There's a 70% off sale. Hashtag not an ad. Okay, so the next game is East 3, Wanderers from East. This was released for Japanese computers in the Master System, in addition to TurboGrafx and the SNES for US audiences. This game is really bad. It changed to a side scroller, much like Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, if anyone's played that.
Oh, everybody's favorite Zelda game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no.
And much like everyone's favorite East game, everybody hated it. It was super hard, and it was the last East game that the US would get for quite some time because of it.
Ah.
For what it's
this is
worth, I really like Zelda 2.
Me too.
Yeah.
But with a guide.
Yeah, absolutely with a guide.
Yeah,
Haven't
absolutely
played
with
it.
a guide. Yeah, I also like Zelda 2 a lot. This is the first to get officially decanonized, and it was replaced by its remake, Ys Oath in Felghana, which we'll talk about. Next, we have Ys 4, Mask of the Sun. But wait, what is that? Another Ys 4 called The Dawn of Ys. That's right. There are two Ys 4s.
Oh man.
Oh, they're doing a Pokemon.
It's a Pokemon, a Final Fantasy, something.
So the first one that I mentioned, Mask of the Sun, was originally released for the Super Famicom in 1993. Of course, the Japanese version of the SNES. And then Dawn of Ys was released for PC Engine, which was just a PC system in Japan in 1993. These are both Japanese exclusive. So interestingly enough, so the original creators of Ys left Falcom or Neon Falcom after Ys 3. Neon Falcom, instead of making a fourth Ys, they licensed two different developers to create two different versions of the same game, basically. Mask of the Sun was developed by Japanese developer Tonkin House, which I had not heard of. Dawn of Ys was developed by Bomberman Daddy Hudson Soft.
Oh.
Neither one of them was ever localized, and both have been decanonized in favor of the third Ys 4, which is called Memories of Celceta. That said, until Memories of Celceta, Mask of the Sun was the most true version of Ys 4, and they also had gone back to the bump system, which is the just run into enemies.
Okay.
I just love, obviously, series that are around for 3 decades get to decanonize or canonize whatever they want to.
Right.
But I just really like the idea that they look back and like, not that one, not that one.
Right.
This
Let's
one.
take another crack
This is
at
the
4.
one.
They actually re-released Mask of the Sun and they re-released Dawn of Ys and called it like it was like Another World or Ys Another World or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Really
so
funny.
they did their own Ys What If, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Andrew, is it Celceta? Is that Calcutta? Is that a Calcutta analog?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
It might be Calcutta. I don't know. Probably is. Now that you mention it. Okay, we've got East 5, Kefin, The Lost City of Sand. This was also released for the Super Famicom in 1995. Despite getting a remake for the PS2, though, in Japan in 2006, this game actually has still, to this day, never been localized in English. So this is the Mother 3 of the East series.
All right.
For the record, if we're doing our math right, and this came out in 95, you have somewhere between 5 and 7 or 8 different East games that have come out in 8 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dang.
And you've never heard of a single one.
No.
Yep. East 5 did away with the bump system and replaced it with a much more common Link to the Past style. So this was just top down, press button to sword swing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like a real game.
Yeah.
A gentleman's game.
Like a gentleman's game. So that's all we're going to talk about with East 5. It is still officially canon, but nobody knows what happens because it's never been localized. There are definitely like fan translations, but it ultimately doesn't really matter. So we're not going to talk about it. Okay, we've got East 6, the Ark of Nepishtim. Now this is a big one. This is the Avengers of the East franchise.
Okay.
Nepishtim completely rewrote the gameplay engine that would actually be the basis for most of the remakes moving forward. Well, a lot of the remakes moving forward. Also, it recontextualized a lot of the series lore. So again, this was the one that kind of like was like, okay, well, all of these like individual stories, actually, they all have one source. They all have an Eternals, if you will. Ark of Nepishtim was originally released for PC in Japan in 2003, and then PS2, and then in globally for PS2 in 2005. So this was the first East game to hit North America since Wanderers from East. So there was a 13-year gap where we had never gotten any of these games.
This is probably the first one most Americans would have been exposed to because of how widely spread the PS2 was. Yeah.
You likely never played East 1 and 2 unless you were like in the know.
In the culture,
in the culture. And then Wanders from East, I think some people probably like that feels like something I would have mistakenly rented at a Giant Eagle and been like, what the fuck is this? And never, never finished it.
Yeah.
Nepishtim is definitely like the Ocarina of Time for a lot of people.
So since this is like 2003, are we into 3D 2005 in US, I guess. Are we into
PS2 area
3D in
we are.
The games, or are we still like a 2D top-down situation?
Yeah, we are. Thanks for bringing that up. This is the first. So the series would not go fully 3D until East 8, which was released in 2017.
God damn.
Much like Pokemon, but this was top-down 3D sprites.
Okay.
So much like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or Zelda, because the handheld Zelda games are like that too. Okay, so then we take a little bit of a turn and we go back to East Origin. Now this is official canon. This is not a guiding game. This is your prequel. Hey, so I mentioned every game to this point featured Adol. This East Origin to date is the only East game that does not feature Adol Christin as the protagonist, because this takes place 700 years before the events of East 1.
It was about time for that.
700 BC. This didn't release worldwide until 2012. So this was out in 2006. So it was using the same engine as Nepishtim, but we didn't get it for 7 years later.
Did that? I mean, I don't know how much you got into it, but like, did this one do a bunch of world building, like set lore?
We'll get into it.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, and then we've got 2 remakes. I mentioned them earlier. East, the Oath in Felghana, is the official remake of East 3, which is using the Nepishtim engine, which is just Link to the Past. And then that was released 2010 for the PSP. And then there's East Memories of Calcutta. I'm just going to call it Calcutta because that's better. That is the official remake of East 4, which is actually using the East 7 engine, which we'll get to in just a sec. That was released in 2013 for PSP. East 7 is then the next chronological title in the series. East 7 is incredibly infuriating because it's the only game that spells out 7, and I fucking hate it.
I was going to ask about that. I noticed that in the list.
It sucks. I hate it, and it sucks.
Is it?
I have it in my notes. It's really annoying. Nope. Just
They had to submit the title that day, and everyone was out of office that understood Roman numerals.
358 over 2 days, guys. Like,
gross.
That's where we're at. Yeah,
Andrew,
it's some Tetsuya Nomura ass shit.
Andrew, did you have a PSP
I didn't.
as a JRPG fan? Because that's where all the JRPGs were.
I kind of always wanted one. I mean, I had a PS2, so I got plenty of JRPG action, but yeah, I never had one.
Okay.
I would argue the Game Boy Advance at that time I was super into like Advance Wars during this point and Fire Emblem, so I was. Fine.
I mean, you had plenty to do, yeah. But.
Yeah, I had an okay childhood. So Seven's engine, Seven changed up the gameplay formula once again and created what's basically now the modern Ys, which is until this point you were just controlling Adol in a very much Legend of Zelda style. This changed it up to be more like a kind of like a Kingdom Hearts or other action RPG where you have a party. Xenoblade Chronicles, but nobody's played Xenoblade Chronicles, so that's a better analog. But so starting with 7, you get a party of 3 members that always includes Adol, and everybody has like unique skills and attributes and all that stuff. So it's using cooldowns. It's that whole thing. It's much more modern take. There's also a Fire Emblem style weapons triangle. They do slashing, piercing, and clubbing, basically blunt damage. Bludgeoning. Thank you.
Yep.
Clubbing. Clubbing.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 games are current gen games. We've got Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana.
What?
That's a name.
That's a name. Ys 8 is the one that I played, and I've put 40 hours into it. It is fucking phenomenal. It is game of the year for me.
Wow.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was originally released for Vita and PS4, so it looks like trash because it was made for the Vita. But I've been playing it on my PS5, and it looks like an absolute dumpster fire. But it is so good,
but
and
it plays well.
It plays well, and it is just like I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but it is like so 100% my shit that it's just like it really got to me. And then the newest title, which actually just released earlier this year, Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. And that came out for PS4 and Steam as well. So again, you can get all of these on Steam. You can get some of the newer ones on Switch, although I would not recommend it. I have heard the Switch versions are pretty fucky.
Okay.
And some of them are available on PlayStation. But Steam seems to be the like go-to medium for all of these. Questions?
No, actually.
So is Ys 9, is that PS4 grade graphics, or is that
yeah.
And I thought I had another one, but maybe I don't. Never mind. Nope.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the lore. Now I'll be perfectly honest. We don't have nearly enough time to do the lore of all these games. That would be way too much content. I'm going to talk extensively about Ys 1 and 2. The information is available and I played it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the middle remakes because there's just not a lot of information available because again, this is a very like niche series. And I'm also going to talk a lot about Ys 8 because again, that's the one that I played. But let me be clear at this point, boom, dear listeners, you are hitting the spoiler wall. There will be spoilers. I do want to say, like, if you have any interest in playing these games, just stop the episode right now and go fucking play them. It's not like you have to experience it, whatever. But I'm not going to do the lore justice because the story is not the biggest reason why you play these games. The story is good enough. But the game, it's a whole package in itself. It's the story, it's the music, it's the characters, it's the way it's presented. So if you have any interest in playing this, just go play it. I will also say there is not an accepted you can kind of get in at most entries. There's a pretty good there's a Reddit. I also want to cite a works cited here. So Master Spectre linked me to a site that they've used. It's called Digital Emelos. It's www.digitalemelos.com, and it is actually just a fan site, a not Wikia fan site for Ys, and it displays a few different play orders for these games. It's usually recommended to do East 1 and 2 first. That's like the story path. But you can also play 8 and 9, the newest entries, if you're just interested in getting into the series, because those are mostly isolated stories and really just like reference the world, but aren't like continuations of other stories. So
I went to Digital Emelos just because I was curious what it looked like, and I've scrolled down to merchandise, and they're advertising a shirt that says "Say No to Walls," and I feel kind of inclined to buy that shirt.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, go. Oh, that is fun. Go buy their t-shirts. They're not wiki. Okay, so the story of East 1 and 2 Chronicles. So East starts, Adol leaves his village at the ripe old age of 16 in search of adventure. He hears about a small island off the northern coast of a town called Promalok called Asteria. In your world map, you can find that is, if you go to image, it's 4 for you guys, but 3 for the listeners. That will be, you can see a little blip north of Promalok, north of Gilead. There's a little blip. You don't even see the island. That is Asteria. So that is where East 1 and 2 takes place. Rumors say that the island Asteria has been overrun by monsters and it's been cursed, but no one has been able to get in or out for months due to a massive storm wall encircling the entire island. So Adol says, fuck it, and sails a small boat right into that storm wall.
So this is the protagonist does.
As you do. So this is kind of the British Isles, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, his boat gets fucking wrecked, and Adol is hurled overboard and washes up unconscious on the shores of Asteria. He's nursed back to health by a friendly townsperson in the small town of Barbaro. Adol is then directed to a fortune teller in the nearby town of Minia named Sarah, who is basically says that she already knows who he is and explains that he must be the fiery-haired swordsman from her visions and that he will play a key role in Asteria's fate. Again, this is 1987.
Sounds
Storytelling
right.
is... Yep.
We got it.
Yep.
King
so
Arthur.
the fortune...
Yep.
So the fortune teller tells Adol about the ancient kingdom of East. There it is. Said the name of the thing. Matt, can I get that claim?
The name of the movie.
Thank you. East was a magically adept kingdom that prospered. That's said to have prospered right on this island of Asteria over 700 years ago, but one day vanished, i.e., ancient East vanished. The kingdom was protected by 2 goddesses and the 6 priests who followed those goddesses, and they kind of like ruled over the kingdom. All known information about the kingdom's rise and subsequent fall is said to have been chronicled in the 6 books of East, each of which was penned by a different priest and serve as our game's MacGuffins. Also, while there, Adol meets a young troubadour named Rhea. Rhea is looking for her silver harmonica and is worried that it's been stolen. She explains there's also been another series of thefts lately. And eventually you find this all points back to a strange man in a black cape.
As all bad things do.
Yeah.
So again, storytelling in 1987. We've got our protagonist, we've got our MacGuffin, we've got our potential antagonist, right? So Adol sets off on his quest to find these 6 books of East to hopefully find the Lost Kingdom and hopefully free the island of its monster curse. His first stop is the shrine north of Zeptig, which is the 3rd and final town you go to because it's a very small game, where he finds a mysterious girl with blue hair locked in a cell who, say it with me, has amnesia.
The power of friendship.
Oh yeah.
It's the other one. It's the other one.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The amnesiac's name is Thena, and the only thing that she can remember is that a man in a dark cape put her there.
Yep.
Yep, check. At the bottom of the shrine, he also recovers the first book of East. And image 5 is of Thena.
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah. Yep. She's our cute anime amnesiac girl. When Adol returns to town, he's informed that the fortune teller was straight up murdered by, say it with me, a man in a dark cape.
The power of
He's also informed that he's also given the 2nd book of East, which had been safeguarded by Sarah, the fortune teller, who was murdered.
Oh, these MacGuffins are just falling down.
Like I said, this game took me 8 hours to beat. It's not very long.
You get your first couple MacGuffins easily when when you're
You
chasing
gotta-
MacGuffins. The first two
gotta-
Infinity Stones were on Earth.
You got to get the first taste has to be easy. Otherwise,
First
you won't
taste
want
is
the others.
always free, baby.
Yep.
That's right. Adol is then directed to a mine within a ruined village because, of course, he is to find the third book. So he gets the third book at the bottom of a mine. So now we've got the first 3 books. This is where the game kind of gets a little bit. We're moving, yeah. This is where it gets kind of interesting. So instead of like going to 3 more temples, the remaining books are actually in one place.
Nice.
That's
Cool.
convenient.
Pretty rad, actually.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the first major cliffhanger of the game, or major half of the game. So after those 3 books, Adol gets a translator in the form of one of the descendants of the 6 East priests. This one is Tova, or a descendant of the priest Tova. You don't have to remember the names. Each book different. One book, one priest. Each have descendants. Yada yada yada.
Sure.
Hey, guess what? We're gonna meet all the descendants because of course we are. So the books then they kind of string together the lore at this point. So we learn of the creation of a precious metal called Claria, which
Vibranium.
created
Adamantium.
I told you it's the MCU. This created a booming economy for the kingdom, as it does, and also as it does, hordes of demons attacked and drove the citizens into the nearby Temple of Solomon.
Okay.
What happened was the twin goddesses, remember I said there are 2 goddesses, 6 priests. The twin goddesses disappeared one day from the shrine and fended off the demons and were never seen again. After this happened, the priests wrote and imbued 6 books with magical powers in hopes of one day leading a hero to find East should they need their hides saved again from demons. They also figured out that the Claria, the vibranium, was what triggered the attack. So they buried whatever of it they could.
Okay.
Now, what happens when people bury mysterious or mystical artifacts, guys?
Bad people come for them.
Bad things happen.
They get dug up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, they get Jumanji'd. So,
In the jungle, you must wait till the dice reach 5 or 8.
That's right, baby. So I mentioned the rest of the game takes place in one location. So Adol is then guided to the massive Tower of Dharm, which is they do this really cool thing. Like in the remakes, they redid all of the backgrounds. So in almost every zone scene, you can see this massive tower, just like skyscraper. Like you can even see the top of it. It just reaches up to the clouds. And you're like, what the fuck is that? This is the Tower of Dharm. This was said to have been built by the demons. And they don't really know why. It just kind of exists. So everyone says like, well, the rest of the books must be there because it's a tower full of monsters and you got to go somewhere.
It's a tower full of demons. Where else?
Yeah.
Where else would we go?
We ran out of town, so I guess you gotta go. So Adol begins climbing the way through the tower, and the third song cue that I've got on here, which we will inject here, is the absolute banger of a theme song that's playing during this whole dungeon. So there's a couple major points here. The first point within the Dharm Tower, very quickly, Adol gets taken out by this magical glyph trap and is thrown into a prison cell. He's kind of just standing in this prison cell, and like you spend like a minute walking around, and all of a sudden you see the wall explode, and this dude named Dogi shows up, literally having punched a hole in the stone wall.
Nice.
And he's on image
Amazing.
6. Yeah. He's just like, hey, I'm Dogi. And he's like, people call me the wall crusher. And you're like, you sure
How
are.
convenient.
Dogi's your bro. Dogi's your best friend. And Dogi's actually one of the few recurring characters throughout this series. So Dogi, which is really cool, is Dogi shows up in East 8. I played East 8 before playing East 1. I had no idea who this motherfucker was, but like they were already friends. So by the time I played East 1, I was like, it's Dogi. It was really fun. Yeah, so Dogi's your bro. Dogi is there because he's part of this group of good guy thieves that are ransacking the place. So there's this whole side quest this side story where all of the town's silver is gone, and they're like, oh, it's the band of thieves who lives up north. And then you talk to the band of thieves, and he's like, oh, no, we're like Robin Hood thieves. We don't do that shit. And you're like, all right.
The Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah.
Yeah. So Dogi works for the Robin Hood thieves. So that's fun. So Dogi's like, hey, you got to go up to the tower, do the thing. So you do the thing. So you keep climbing up the tower. You get 2 more books along the way. So now we're at 5 out of 6. Eventually, Adol meets up again with Rhea, who was the troubadour who was looking for the silver harmonica. Before she was wearing a cloak, so she obscured the blue hair and the fact that she looks just like Fina, the other girl that you rescued.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that says, oh, hey, there's probably something more of this girl than she's probably just not a troubadour because she got a whole portrait in the cutscene. So she's probably important. So she says she's let herself get captured because she knew that's the only way that she could catch up with Adol. Sure. And then she gives you a magical monocle that allows Adol to read the East books for himself. Because
neat.
Because you can't leave the tower without getting it translated. So
It's Joseph Smith, the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, I mean, sure, this is the Joseph Smith of JRPGs. Okay. So, the game's final climax is Adol reaches the 25th floor of the tower and encounters the big bad, the man in the dark cape, the evil sorcerer who reveals himself to be, wait for it, Dark Fact.
Amazing.
Okay.
Good.
Dark Fact is image 7 here, and he looks like the bad guy in a 1987 fantasy game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
He does look like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. So Dark Fact is actually a descendant of one of the 6 East priests, Cain Fact.
Oh.
So Fact is a surname.
Yep.
Fact is a surname. They must
Which
have
means
they must have had some expectation when they named their child Dark.
this is definitely one of those things that could just pigeonhole him for career choices.
Yeah.
So Adol defeats Dark Fact in an incredibly frustrating, infuriating boss battle, and recovers the 6th and final book.
Is the boss battle also the bump system?
Yeah, it sucks.
Ooh.
The whole game. That's the one thing about if you're gonna play East 1, the boss battles are super fucky. I get what they were going for, but like the bump system really works for just traversing the world and kind of fighting baddies. It does not work for bosses. Apparently East 2, I haven't played East 2 yet. I'm probably going to play like literally after we're done recording. East 2 added magical attacks to give Adol some ranged abilities, which I've heard fixes it, but the bosses are still kind of fucky. The boss battle against Dark Fact is so infuriating because every time you hit him, he bounces around the screen like a DVD menu logo.
Oh no.
But every time you hit him, it gets rid of a piece of the board.
Oh.
So you have to be strategic about like where you hit him because you could either like decrease your mobility or straight up just like fall through and like get instant death.
Sure.
But he's also just like lobbing fireballs at you the whole time, so you're also like manically running around. It's infuriating.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it's really bad. Okay, so that's East 1. So at the end of East 1, you get the 6th book. Adol is then swept up in this white light and yeeted up into the sky, like literally yeeted up into the sky. We don't really know what happens. There's just like a text crawl at this point, but it says basically the figures of the 2 goddesses appear in front of him. So then we get to East 2. East 2 begins exactly like East 1. Adol's waking up in a strange bed, being nursed back to health by a kindly stranger. This time, it's a girl named Lilia, and that Lilia is on image 8. She's also a cute anime girl. There's a lot of them.
Yep.
Adol asks Lilia and the rest of her family where in Asteria he is, and the response is that, what's Asteria? This is the land of Ys. So what happened was Ys is a floating island in the clouds above Asteria and has been there for 700 years.
It's a Merlin story.
Yeah, it's neat, cool. So nobody in Ys has ever heard of Asteria nor the rest of the outside world. So Adol has, with 6 books of Ys in hand, Adol then meets the village elder, who advises him to travel to the sanctuary of Toll. There he can find 6 statues of the priests to return the books. The elder believes that the goddesses have guided Adol here, figures that this will help uncover his purpose for being there. And because he's a good anime sword boy, Adol does also things like rescue a doctor from a mine. He finds magical herbs to cure Lilia's chronic illness because he needs to grind them levels because the level cap in this game is level 50.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Adol then returns the books to their respective statues in the Temple of Solomon and gets more backstory. So what happened was 700 years ago, demons appeared in Ys at the same time they appeared in Asteria. When the source of the demons is traced back to the time when the source of the demons can also be traced back to the source of when they used magic for the first time to make Ys float.
Gotcha.
So that magic created the demons as a byproduct.
Ah, okay.
So our not messing with forces beyond our comprehension storyline trope.
Correct.
Okay.
All magic costs something sort of situation.
Yep. So that's the story of the game. So Adol needs to defeat the evil at the center of the Shrine of Solomon that will rid the island of demons once and for all. Cool. Pretty standard. So the next third of the game is Adol making his way through the required fire and snow worlds, which you're legally required to do in a JRPG.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he even meets a friendly demon named Keith. It's Image 9. It's Keith the demon.
I don't know what it is about like Japanese properties using the name Keith, but
It's really funny.
Is that a reoccurring thing?
Really goddamn funny.
There's
Tell me about other Japanese Keiths, please.
If you're a fan of Japanese Keiths, name
Keith?
3.
There's the American character in Yu-Gi-Oh is also Keith.
That's fair enough.
Is the other one, and then I don't know. There's a third one I'm not thinking of, but Yu-Gi-Oh is the one that my mind immediately went to.
Cool. Let us know in the comments who your favorite Keith is.
So the last kind of third of Adol's journey through Ys is mostly just exploring the Shrine of Solomon, but he kind of gets interrupted every once in a while to fix some magical hijinks that's being done to the local residents, because they're basically just like, I'm being turned into a kangaroo. Oh, God. That's the thing that happens.
Bandit Keith is his name in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
So finally, Adol makes it to the core of the shrine, and there he finds the two goddesses imprisoned by magical energy. Does anybody want to guess who the two goddesses are? We've met them already.
I'm guessing that
it's Lilia and Fina.
It's the blue hairs.
Rhea, the two blue hairs.
Yeah. Rhea and Fina.
Rhea and Fina.
Yep. So after they are freed, they explain that their memories have come flooding back.
Oh, we got them.
Yep.
They reveal the source of Ys's ancient magical power. It's the Black Pearl. This is our main MacGuffin.
The ship from Pirates of the Caribbean.
The Johnny Depp.
It's actually connected to the Johnny Depp-averse. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The 6 priests used the power of the Black Pearl's magic to guide Ys to prosperity, but as all things does, it came at a cost. Which was the demons.
They're skeletons that can't die as long as they have the treasure. Yeah.
Exactly. They did the thing with the coins, and each of the priests had a coin. The goddesses had sealed the Black Pearl's magic away, but Dark Fact found a way to call back the demons because he Jumanji'd the Clarion.
He memorized all those dark facts.
I was waiting for that. So the goddesses tell Adol that they cannot seal the pearl away again. Instead, he must defeat the evil that lies within, and that is Darm, and that's Image 10.
Darm looks troubling.
Yeah, Darm is very much like your Zeromus or your guy at the end of Earthbound. What's his name?
Gygus.
Gigaplex? Yeah, Gygus.
Neither of those were for me. I like this guy's doofy elephant nose. That's kind of fun.
It's like a mole and a cockroach.
It's also got a man body carrying a large spear.
But with short, stubby arms.
Yeah,
he's got big Nier energy.
He's got mittens on his stubby arms.
So
big silly badger feet.
So as you do, Adol defeats Darm, which ultimately destroys the Black Pearl and the demonic presence along with it. Without magic to keep the island floating, the city of Ys slowly returns back to the surface to rejoin Asteria and the rest of the world, and everybody rejoices, save for Rhea and Fina, which they go back into goddess slumber for whatever reason.
So, see ya, bye.
Bye.
Where on this map does Ys land?
Right. So going back to that is still we're still in Asteria. That's that little island. That's our British Isles little island. So this is all contained in that one area.
And how big is Ys compared to Asteria? Do we know or care?
No,
Okay.
it's like a city compared. Yeah, I mean it's a city within a state.
So it's like Ireland landed back in the British Isles.
It's like if Columbus one day appeared.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna go through one more game, and that's Ys Origin, and we're gonna do that next because this is directly related. So remember, I said Ys Origin. This was the only one that doesn't star Adol because that takes place 700 years in the past, and now we know why. Because this is the Halo reach.
Is this where
how Ys got yeeted up into the sky?
Is this where they tell us that the Keyblade is actually an X for Kai, but it's Key? That's what this is.
I'm you know what? I'm gonna give you an inspiration point because I'm so surprised. I'm proud that you remembered that.
That takes up space in my brain that I could be using for valuable things like loved ones' birthdays.
Yeah. Todd doesn't know some of Shannon's family members' names because he knows Kingdom Hearts.
That's on you. That ain't my fault. Statute of limitations.
That is super on you, but not the point.
Okay, so Ys Origin, real quick. I'll just go through the highlights. So this is retelling the original demon attack. This begins with the first appearance of the demons in search for that Claria, the vibranium. The demons, as we talked about, the demons drove the island's inhabitants into the Shrine of Solomon, which is kind of like the top of the island's tallest mountain. Once everyone gathered, the goddesses used the power of the Black Pearl to tear the island off of the ground into the heavens, the central part of the island, into the heavens.
Not unlike Ultron in Avengers.
Yeah, this is the Avengers. This is the Age of Ultron of the Ys world.
I would like a Ys movie, and I would like both Rhea and Fina to be voiced by James Spader, please. Thank you.
No, James Spader's Keith the Demon.
Meanwhile, the demons, determined to reach the shrine, built the massive Dharm Tower, which is at this point called the Devil's Tower, and waged war on the shrine. So literally like a floating island versus like a bunch of demons on top of a tower, like, "Rah!"
It's pretty rad.
Yeah. The goddesses, as we saw from the books, disappeared in this last-ditch effort to chase the demons off. After the goddesses disappeared, the priests of Ys formed a search party consisting of the city's greatest warriors to find the goddesses and bring them home. So Ys Origin has you playing through actually 2 campaigns, each of which starring a member of the search party that's climbing up the Devil's Tower. The first campaign the first 2 campaigns feature Unica Tova and Hugo Fact. These are 2 names that we've heard. These are the
descendants.
Priests. In this case, related to the priests. Tova and Fact are both one of the priests, but these are not them. Unica is one of the priest's daughter, and Hugo Fact is brother to one of the other priests. Now, their campaigns are incredibly important. We're not going to talk about it. But what they are meant to do is to unlock the 3rd hidden campaign. So you've played Hero and Dark Story. Now you get Last Story. And this is of Toll Fact. You've heard the name Toll before. This was the Temple of Toll or whatever.
Yes.
Sure.
So Toll Fact.
Okay.
Island. I forget. Something of Toll. Image 11 is of Toll Fact. And he looks very edgelordy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Sanctuary of Toll.
Sanctuary of Toll. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Toll Fact, who is brother to Hugo and ancestor to Dark, went on a kind of suicide mission alongside a man named Saul Tova, which is Unica's father. And together they fended off the demons on the surface while the city was getting razed by the magic of the Black Pearl. Saul was killed, but Toll was kept alive and ultimately made a pact with the demons to become one himself. So that's why he's
Toll.
all, yeah, dang it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's all
edgy.
Devil May Cried out.
Yeah.
Except the whole time he is a double agent that nobody trusts, except for the goddesses who see through his big ruse. So you go through the hidden campaign as Toll, and everyone's like, "Yeah, fuck you, man."
So he's our John
Antihero.
Constantine.
Yeah. So the big reveal at the end of Toll's story is that the big bad responsible for everything is a man named Kane Fact, who is one of the 6 priests of Ys. So
Oh.
he was the original sin, basically.
Okay.
Cain made a pact with a race of people, a race of demons. And later we will learn that the race of demons is actually retconned to be a race called the Darklings, which is different. And together, Cain and the demons unleash the power of the demons onto Ys to gain control of the Black Pearl and ultimately all the world's magic, yada, yada, yada. So Ys origin ends with the goddesses stealing away the Black Pearl and going into their slumber, which of course leads to the plus 700 years where Adol arrives on the island.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yep. So that's
Okay.
Ys. That's the story. The story done of the story of Ys, the place, not Ys, the franchise. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna cover a couple of the remakes. We're gonna cover Nepishtim, and then we're gonna cover my favorite game, Ys 8: Lacrimosa of Dana. Stay tuned. We are back. All right, guys. So we talked about, we did an overview of Ys. We talked a little bit about the world that was set up in 1 and 2. We spoke mostly about the islands. So let's cover some of the other places in this world. And I mentioned, actually, let's go back and talk more about the lore that affected this world. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk next about Ark of Nepishtim. Now, technically, this is Ys 6, so we're definitely going out of order, but there's reason for that. So as I mentioned when we went through all the games, I said Ark of Nepishtim definitely, like, as the like Avengers or Eternals of this series or whatever, it definitely like filled in a lot of the gaps and went and retconned a lot of the earlier games. So I want to talk about the lore that Ark of Nepishtim introduced, and then we'll talk about the games that were the preceding games that were affected by it.
Okay.
So remember how the entire continents of North and South America are just a scary vortex that is definitely what our world is going to look like in like 60 years?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump back thousands of years and talk about why that is.
Global warming, right?
Yeah, it all started in the climate wars.
It all started with... So Ronald Reagan was elected president.
It's an inconvenient truth.
So it all starts with a race called the Eldeen, an ancient race of winged human-like built beings. They look like angels, who developed this type of ore with magical properties called emelas. Emelas is so Ys did what Marvel did, which said, "Okay, you've heard of vibranium, right? But actually." So emelas is our adamantium. Emelas was created again thousands of years ago. This is like because this is a stand-in for our own world. These are your ancient aliens, right? Like this is what we're talking about.
Gotcha.
These are the Forerunners.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Emelas originally. We haven't done the Halo flavor text yet. Emelas originally came in 3 flavors. Red for fire magic items, blue for wind magic items, and gold for lightning magic items. Stands to reason.
Sure.
Each of these magical items would be represented in the legendary weapons and artifacts that were seen in past games. For example, in Ys 1, at the top of Darm Tower, you get an awesome flaming sword called the Battle Sword. That was later retconned to say like, oh, that's a red Clarion or red Emelas.
I was gonna say, so this is like retconning all of the elemental objects you found in there.
Yep.
Okay.
And all 3 of those can tie back to other items other MacGuffin items like legendary weapons you get in the games. So like, okay, cool, fine. The Eldeen created 2 more limited edition flavors of Emelas. So we've done kind of like our Code Red. This is our Baja Blast of Emelas.
Okay.
We've got white Emelas and black Emelas. Black Emelas contains the concentrated power of all 3 colors, the Black Pearl. While white Emelas possesses the power to control black Emelas.
White Emelas is the kid that chose his power last on the on the recess.
Yep.
White is the one ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Which, like, again, you can make parallels to this all day. Like, you've heard this story.
Oh, that's all I'm gonna keep doing. I'm not stopping because you pointed that out.
The Eldeen, much like the kid at recess, the Eldeen transferred their consciousness into bodies made of white emelos so that they could forever maintain control over the black emelos.
Smart.
Now, that right there is a real metal Dracula situation.
Will this have come out? Yes, this will have come out. Perfect.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
So the Eldeen lived on the Atlas continent, which would be America in our version of the world, and watched over the Reda, which is a race of elven-like people, along with ancient humans. So on Atlas, you had the Eldeen, you had the Reda, and you had just human-ass humans. So again, this is like further cementing, like, these are your ancient aliens, basically. The Eldeen used black emelos to create a device called the Ark of Nepishtim, which was this massive computer that was created to house the records of the entire civilization and also to control the weather patterns of the Atlas Ocean. It's the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Now, of course, as these stories tend to go, humans do human things and fuck everything up. So the humans, wanting a taste of that sweet, sweet magical rock juju, try and experiment to create their own emelos. Now, they were successful in creating the red, blue, gold flavors, but just couldn't get the pure black. Instead, they ended up with like an impure, but still potent version they called ash emelos.
The Mad Cat's emelos.
The Mad Cat's emelos. The humans then entered the required dark science portion of the origin story. And began experimenting on living beings with the ash emelos. The resulting effect was the creation of the Galba, or dragon soldiers, who were these like hulking, abominations that were bred for war.
The orcs.
Because again, yes, they're orcs. Still unsatisfied with their Mad Cat's emelos, the humans resolved to get the pure top shelf shit. So a group of humans attempted to infiltrate the Ark and steal the secrets to making the black and white emelos using their Galba dragon soldier army. Their actions caused the entire structure to go unstable and ultimately flooded the entire Atlas continent and surrounding Canaan Islands. Again, because the Ark was created to be like a source of weather control.
Again, lifted directly from events that have not happened in America yet, but are coming. Yes.
Yep. It's called an arc. I mean, again, that's that symbolism. That the symbolism is not a coincidence. Okay, so enter Alma, one of the Eldeen. She is image. Boy, I did not label these very well at all, did I? She is image 12.
That's a JRPG angel, all right.
Yep.
Yep. It's the boob monster.
So Alma attempted to hold back the flood by sacrificing herself to create a magical barrier out of her white emelos body.
This image, I want everyone to just think of it as this way. This was the image that stirred something within me in the Digimon evolution chain.
Fuck.
Really that really got me.
I was gonna say she looks like Genova from Final Fantasy VII, but that's way better.
Yeah.
So
anyway, she creates a levy with herself, and that levy certainly holds forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does, Matt. Good call. Alma, no, actually, it does, because Alma successfully stopped the flood from swallowing the rest of the world, but was unable to save the Atlas continent. That was completely sunk, completely lost to the sea. So the surviving Eldeen abandoned the surface for the heavens, save for 3. 2 of them, their names happen to be Rhea and Fina, took the remaining black emelos to a small island that would eventually be known as Ys. So this was the big retcon was, oh, they're not just like weird goddesses. Actually, it was this race of like hyper intelligent people, and they're also the reason why all of this magic exists on this world.
Yeah, as far as like backfill retcons go, this fits in pretty well. I don't feel bad about this.
No, I like it. I like it a lot.
It's on par with taking Thor as the literal god of thunder and making him an alien instead. Like it's the same thing.
I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop but thinking about the Eternals during this time.
Yep.
Like it was like that was very much like what I because again it's like we're gonna get. I can imagine we're gonna get like the Eternals built Stonehenge and the pyramids. Like I guarantee we're gonna see that fucking trash. So it's like that. Meanwhile, the descendants of the humans that raided the Ark also fled east to Eresia, that's Europe, because of course they did. They would go on to identify themselves as the Darklings, which you've heard me talk about before, otherwise known as the Clan of Darkness.
Little on the nose.
Yeah, little on the nose. This is the group that Kane Fact and Dark Fact would end up working with in the East story. And they end up being kind of the main antagonist in other series entries. So it's like when shit's going down, it's probably the Darklings.
I mean, with a name like that, how could it not?
Yeah.
Now it is funny in one of the games. I can't remember if it's 7 or Calcutta. There is it's 7. Yeah, there's a band of Darklings that is actually trying to like atone for the Darklings' crimes. So like that's kind of cool. So I mean, again, like the Darklings are just people, but they have ties to demons. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. So Ark and Epistrum. I don't have much to talk about the actual game itself. The majority of what to talk about is the lore, the ensuing lore. But the actual game events are Adol's ship is attacked by a fleet of Roman military vessels. Remember the Roman Empire?
Yep.
He is forced to sail off course and swept off his ship by a large storm, because there's one thing about Adol Christin is if he is on a ship, it will explode.
Fair.
He winds up being pulled ashore by the Canaan vortex and is found by residents of a Reda village. Turns out that land was never swallowed up. It was just living inside the vortex the whole time. Adol teams up with a mercenary named Geis to stop Geis's brother Ernst from unearthing the Ark of Epistrum and accessing the ancient power. Ernst has gone rogue and has taken a fleet of Roman ships to find ancient Eldeen secrets, super Red Skull style.
Yep.
I want to put it in here again because I think that Kyle had said how either Kyle or Matt had said how Fire Emblem-y these characters are.
Yep.
And having never played a Fire Emblem game, you could have put these characters into a slide and said, "Is it Ys? Is it Fire Emblem?"
And
I would have been wrong. I would have gotten Geis wrong.
It's the Office meme. It's the same picture.
Yeah, these are the same picture.
Like I can't stress how much this looks like Game Boy era Fire Emblem sprites.
Yeah,
like,
so what we're referring to is images 13 and 14 of Geis and Ernst. And yes, Geis looks like your stereotypical mercenary Fire Emblem unit, and Ernst looks like the other mercenary type of unit. You've got like down to earth axe wielder and haughty swordsman. Those are your two. Yep. So Ernst, the haughty swordsman, successfully combines all 3 key fragments to open the Ark and dispels the Canaan vortex. That also then turns on its death cycle.
Oh no, not the death cycle.
You didn't put the code in right, so self-destruct also activates, unfortunately.
Because this was a JRPG that was made in 2005, the power of the Ark's Emelos also gives Ernst cool black anime wings.
Sick.
Adol has to fight off Ernst before he acquires even more Ark power. Meanwhile, the Ark is like, "Oh, should I do a death again?" So it starts its apocalypse cycle. So Adol has to collect the MacGuffins needed to destroy the Ark's core in time to stop the massive flood. Basically, like what the Ark will do was just like flood the entire world, which remember that's what Alma the Eldeen stopped. Adol's actions dispels the Canaan vortex for good and subsequently frees the Reda tribe from isolation. So the Reda, just like the inhabitants of Ys, the Reda can now rejoin the rest of the world. Fun fact, this story is actually heavily inspired by Utnapishtim's Ark, which is an ancient Mesopotamian myth, which also is likely to have inspired the story of Noah's Ark, because the Bible is not the word of God. The Bible was written by humans.
Yes.
Hot take.
Especially here on this show, where we certainly haven't dunked on Christianity before.
In the East version, it's kind of a cool twist on this old fable. In the East version, you have the gods creating the ark to save the world from a flood caused by man, versus the reverse,
Nice.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Those good guy gods.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna do the 2 remakes now. So we've got Memories of Calcutta and Oath in Felghana. I'm also doing these out of order because this is the chronological order that they happen. Adol goes to Calcutta before he goes to Felghana, even though Calcutta is technically East 4.
They're all Yeast 4, so.
I
always
specifically
has been.
remember all of it. Always has been.
So Arcanapishtim, remember, just happened later, but I wanted to talk about that lore because it sets up what happens in Calcutta and Felghana. So chronologically, East 1 and 2 happens 1 year after the events of East 2, when Adol gets yeeted up in the sky and rejoins Asteria. Adol leaves Asteria and arrives in Calcutta, which is in the western region of Spain. He's got amnesia. Of course he does.
Of course. There's got to be one where they have amnesia.
Yep. Adol teams up with a man named Durin and 2 warriors named Karna and Ozma, all of whom claim to have met him before, but he has no memory of meeting them or anything of being in this world. He then encounters a witch named Bami, who is controlling local ruffians with these weird masks, a la Majora's Mask. Eventually, Adol and the rest of his party arrives to the Tower of Providence, which is run by a being who the locals refer to as a god. Heard this before? Turns out this god is named Eldil, and he is the third of the Eldeen.
God damn it!
That did not disappear.
Didn't even try.
Not even trying. It's a real Europe situation. It's fucking Europe. Who cares? Eldeen explains that he and Adol have already met, but after a bit goes all Mr. Hyde on him and turns into this black-winged version of himself, and then demands the Mask of the Sun before passing out. So,
all right,
cool.
Majora's Mask.
Yep. More masked ruffians attack the village, and it's discovered that all of these are copies of the previously mentioned Mask of the Sun.
Oh, they're the heartless of the Mask of the Sun.
They're the imperfect copies. Gruda, a Roman general, is actively trying to find the mask to use its power for the betterment of the Roman Empire. He is also being used by the evil version of Eldil, who has this point been completely overpowered. Adol and company find the subsequent Mask of the Moon, which they use to cure Eldil of his Mr. Hyde-ness, and they cast the Mask of the Sun into Mount Vesuvio. Much like the One Ring. Eldil, again, this is very much an isolated story, but as far as the canon is concerned, the Mask of the Sun was another relic brought by the Eldil. The Mask of the Sun is also tied to this other, similar to the Ark of Napishtim. It was like a glyph that contained all of the known archives of the of that civilization. It was just created before the Ark of Napishtim, so they're like, kind of a version 1.0, if you will.
Yeah.
But the kind of the lasting impact of this adventure is that Eldil, as a god, officially grants Adol the title of adventurer, which therefore. Because that's a thing that you can do.
The legendary adventurer, the adventurer of time.
He got knighted. Thereby cementing Adol's place in history as Adol the adventurer.
Great.
Yep. The hero of time.
Yep.
So next we'll talk about just a couple bullet points about Oath in Felghana. So Oath in Felghana features Dogi, Dogi the Wall Crusher. So there's 3 or 4 games that all feature Dogi as kind of like a guest role. I don't think you can ever play him as your party. You might be able to in 7, I'm not sure. But Dogi's just kind of always there.
I'm very much imagining the sitcom trope of the semi-famous reoccurring character comes in the door and the studio audience claps every time Doji
I think you mean
shows
crushes
back up in a game.
Crushes through the wall in the studio audience.
Crushes through a wall in the studio audience. Woo!
He does have big Kramer energy. Yeah. So Adol and Dogi together travel to. This is a year later, so Adol's 18 at this point. Adol and Dogi travel to Dogi's hometown of Redmont in the city of Felgana, which is located in the northern region of Garmin, Germany. This game actually takes place after Memories of Calcutta, even though this is effectively Sorry. Yes. This game actually takes place after Memories of Calcutta, even though this was the remake of East 3.
Gotcha.
It's a little confusing.
Okay.
So it goes 1, 2, 4, 3.
It's like the U2 count in.
Nice pull.
Yeah.
When they arrive to Redmont, they meet up with a girl that Dogi grew up with named Elena. She delivers the exposition that drives the plot of this game. Monsters have overridden the land. A nefarious nobleman named Count Maguire is sheriff of Nottinghaming the villagers to straight homelessness. And Elena's brother and Dogi's friend Chester has gone missing. So Adol sets out to do the thing and free the stuff. The big reveal in this one is that essentially the general. So remember the Galba, the dragon soldiers?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but basically like the leader of the Galba retreated to Felgana. So the big retcon here was like, oh, remember that big dragon warrior that was the big bad in Felgana? Yeah, he's that guy.
Gotcha.
So fine, whatever, fine. Cool. Okay. Lacrimosa of Donna. Weird name, excellent game. So this is East 8. Again, we are very much going out of order here, but I don't care. So granted, yes, it's the 8th entry in the series. Chronologically, this takes place after Felgana. This is the stretch of Adol's trip where he is with Dogi. And one of Adol's big thing is he always wanted to get to the city of Altago in the Africa continent. That was like the first place that he wanted to go. The like retcon there, or not the retcon, the hand wave there is the kingdom of Altago, the Ottomans, were at war with the Roman Empire. And which made that travel impossible. So a few years later, there is a ceasefire, and Adol and Dogi take the opportunity to try to travel down to Altago. So that is where Lacrimosa of Donna East 8 starts, which is why it's chronologically a little bit weird. However, Adol and Dogi are on a ship. What happens when Adol gets on a ship, guys?
No.
Gonna have a 3-hour tour situation.
We sure are. So what happens is Adol and Dogi get passage on this passenger cruise ship called the Lombardia, and they get kind of like day jobs as sailors, whatever, just like pit crew. During the voyage, the captain of the ship, Captain Barbados, tells Adol about the mysterious island of Seyren. This is the Bermuda Triangle, technically. Granted, like, it's not locally. This is where where Greece is about, like the Seychelles about that. This would be where this takes place, but this is effectively the stand-in for Bermuda Triangle. So because Chekhov's Seyren, soon after hearing about the mysterious island, Adol's like, I want to go there. Well, Adol gets his wish because the ship is attacked by a gigantic kraken.
Oh, we haven't had one of those yet.
No,
we haven't.
Probably this is our Atlantis. Then I would say,
kind of. Yes, I mean yes, but
or like our Themyscira. Like
yeah. It's Themyscira is probably a good analog. Yeah. Themyscira is the home of Wonder Woman for people who aren't
sorry
nerds.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I mean, we do a lot. We need to remember to do that with Marvel stuff too, because I'll just say like vibranium and assume people know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Adol awakens on, surprise, the mysterious island of Seyren. He then meets up with. So I'm going to talk a lot about East 8 because I played it, and I'll go through the very, very light story beats. East 8 is a 50+ hour JRPG. It is a chunky game.
Oh, boy.
So I'm going to really glaze over it. It's not like East 1, which was 8 hours. So Adol meets up with the noblewoman Laxia von Roswell and Grecian fisherman Sahad. Yes, I said Grecian because he comes from the Isle of Greek, and and they are represented in images 15 and 16. He also meets up with Dogi and the Lombardia's captain. So together, the 5 of them establish this makeshift town. They have to survive on this island. And the first half of the game is actually really cool. So the first half of the game is just you exploring this island, and you're trying to find castaways. You're trying to basically rescue all of the crewmates from the ship.
Sure.
And there are upwards of 20 to 30 different people to rescue.
Oh boy. Gotta go find all the Koroks to increase your inventory.
The reason why this game just clicked with me so much is it's all about exploration, and I just absolutely love that. So that song plays, Sunshine Coast plays, and you're on the beach and you're running around, you're fighting stuff, and there's so many checkboxes. It's just a completionist wet dream.
What
does the gameplay look like at this point? Are we 3D open world?
Yeah. So this is 3D. So Lacrimosa came out in 2017. It's got heavy Breath of the Wild DNA.
Cool.
You can tell it was a big inspiration. This is the first fully 3D Ys game, and this is the E7 gameplay engine, which uses the 3-party system, the 3-party character system, where you have different abilities and stuff, and you've got the weapon triangle and everything.
And this was the PSP one, or the PS Vita?
This was the Vita one.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for somebody who hasn't played a lot of JRPG games, when you say the E7 game style, how close is that to Sonic Heroes? Because I've played that, and that's a 3-party game, right?
And an
It's
RPG,
really
definitely, yeah.
That fucking got me. Good question. So I want to say it's like a watered down God of War, where you don't have you just have one attack button, but you do combos. You have different abilities that have cooldowns and have different resource costs. And then you have a dodge roll. It's one of those things where you're gonna get hit. You've got HP, but you have a dodge roll. And actually in this one, because it's inspired by Breath of the Wild, you can do a perfect dodge or a perfect block and get time slows down, you get extra damage and all that stuff. So it definitely rewards skill. But it is an RPG in the same effect that you will level up. You have stats, you have equipment. It's very light on all that, though. There's not a lot of menuing.
Okay, cool.
The menuing comes in the form of a lot of checklists. So you have different. The island is spread about in different regions. There are treasures in each island to get. There's you get a progress bar of you've got 17 out of 17 treasures. You can fill in the map. It's all about filling in the map, which again, this is why I wouldn't recommend this to everybody, but it's exactly my shit, because my favorite thing to do in a game is fill in the map.
It was handcrafted for you.
It really was. So the first half of the game, like I said, you're kind of going through, you're exploring dungeons. Probably Diablo is not a far comparison to this. In that it's that dungeon crawly hack and slash,
Yeah.
So you're gonna go. Adol goes through. He recruits 2 more party members. Images 17 and 18. The Fallout Boy singer stand-in Hummel.
Yeah.
And stereotypical little girl character Ricotta. Not ricotta like the cheese, but ricotta.
Because it's definitely spelled like the cheese.
It's like the cheese.
Yeah, it is.
Hummel looks like a pirate cowboy, and I'm into it.
Yeah.
Hummel's whole thing is he calls himself a transporter.
Yep.
And he
sure does.
He starts at the whole game he pretends he acts like a criminal. But the big funny reveal with Hummel is that this whole time, so he was he's got this briefcase. He's I have to get this to its designated owner, and that's why he came aboard the Lombardia. But what you come to find is what he was delivering was a jar of pickles that he made himself.
Great.
Perfect. Hummel is absolutely my favorite character now.
He is my favorite too. The reason he's delivering that is because there was a person on the island that put a note in a bottle and then set it out to sea and was I'd really love some pickles, and
Incredible.
And Hummel was like, I will make this my life's journey to deliver this man pickles that I made myself.
Great.
So I really like this art that you have in Imgur, and I really like it because all of the characters are so multicolored. Does that come across in the game?
The game is very colorful. It
Cool.
doesn't. The graphics aren't, like I said, the graphics aren't great because it's made for Vita, but it is
Yeah.
very colorful, and I like it. And the art style specifically is that is the art style of the game. Image 2 that I have in here as well, like modern Adol, is also taken from Lacrimosa.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Again, like I won't dwell on it too much more. I really did like this game. I'm almost done with it. I'm not completely done with it, but I've really enjoyed every minute of it. So the story of Lacrimosa really kicks in about a third of the way through. As they're exploring the island, Adol is continuously plagued with these dreams about a woman named Donna, not Dana, Donna. He's experiencing through her eyes this like life of this technologically advanced civilization that also lives among dinosaurs. Oh yeah, there are dinosaurs on this island, and it's awesome.
Yes.
Cool.
The like
It's straight up Land of the Lost.
Yeah, the like utopia dinosaur island trope. I'm into it.
It's great. And you get to fight dinosaurs in like the second half of the game, which is all fighting dinosaurs.
Sick.
Yeah. So at a certain point, Adol and his team discovers this series of ruins of some ancient civilization. They climb this. Part of it is like the big thing is you climb a mountain, and then on the other side you're like, oh, there are all these ruins. That's really cool. And then he recognizes this is Donna's world. Donna, meanwhile, is having these strange visions of herself and seeing her life through Adol. Somehow the two are linked magically, telepathically, despite living thousands of years apart. And we learn that Donna's whole thing is she serves as the Maiden of the Great Tree, which is kind of a prophet, religious leader in her culture. She also happens to be greatly attuned to their civilization's source of earth magic, which they call essence. And Donna is shown on image 19 with 2 sick-ass scimitars.
Those are
there's
sick scimitars.
There's the horny art. We've been playing a lot of JRPG, and we hadn't gotten a really horny one yet.
Yeah. I mean, Laxia also fits that bill. She's got short shorts, but Donna definitely, like, she doesn't wear a lot of clothes.
Has the boob window, yeah.
Yeah, her weapons remind me of... Oh, shit. I don't even remember what fighting game it's from.
They're very Soul Calibur-esque. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Very
There's a girl
Calibur.
in Soul Calibur with the forearm blades, and that's...
Yep. Taki? You talking about Taki? No,
I
Taki
gotta
is
look
Sai.
now. Hold on.
I can only
is
think of Voldo and Whip Sword Woman, and it's neither of those
Ivy.
two.
Ivy is Whip Sword Woman, yeah.
You didn't need to say it with that behind your voice, Andrew.
Oh, God.
I know.
It's too long since I've done a Soul Calibur episode. I can't do this now.
We'll continue. So Donna figures out that she is seeing visions from the future where her civilization of Eternia, that's what they call it, is long gone. So Adol and crew is trying to investigate the ruins. She's trying to figure out through Adol what happened. And we have this situation where she does some fun kind of timey-wimey things where like she'll plant trees in her time to allow them to cross like major chasms.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Time travel is fun. So in the present, Adol and team, with the help of past Donna, finally reach the center of the Eternian ruins to find a sleeping Donna.
Of course.
So she's just like straight up there in the present. And you're like, what the fuck? Basically, you learn that together with present day Donna then joins Adol and company to unlock the mysteries of what happened to her world or her civilization. Together with past Donna, they discover the secret of the Lacrimosa, which is this otherworldly life and death cycle that was created to encourage evolution between the races. This is Issa's creation myth. In the beginning, there were sentient amphibious races who were lacrimosa'd into bird people. They then lacrimosa'd into the saurians, which are the dinosaurs, who then developed speech and evolved into the Eternians, which are Donna's race, which, like, They kind of hand wavy it. Donna's actually like 2 feet smaller than any other person that she lives with among, because they needed it to make sense for her to be in the party.
Yeah.
But like all of the Eternians are like 8 or 9 feet tall.
The chosen one is different.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
So and then the Eternians Lacrimosa into not into the humans, but actually into the Eldil. So
okay.
Eldil actually are after, or Eldine, sorry. See, I do it. The Eldine are actually after the Eternians. So each Lacrimosa is bookended by some natural disaster. The Eternians Lacrimosa is a series of comets that blow up the entire city, because that's how the dinosaurs.
So what you're telling me, Andrew, is after the climate wars, we'll Lacrimosa into something much cooler than humans.
And this is East 8 is telling us all that all of this has happened before. Ancient civilizations have already come and gone. This has all happened before and will happen again. Life is meaningless. Eat Arby's.
Yeah. Well, we all knew that already.
So that's East 8. Highly recommend, if you're still listening, God help you. I definitely recommend checking out East 8. It's on all current gens, so like I said, you can get it on Switch. I wouldn't recommend that. If you have a PS4 or PS5, get it on that, or Steam. Okay, East 7 and East 9 are the only 2 left, and I don't have a lot to talk about with them because I couldn't find much available, and I got really tired.
Classic. We ran out of steam as we reached the end of this flavor text.
Yeah, classic us. So 5 was never localized. I'm not going to talk about it. East 7 happens after East 8. This is Dogi and Adol finally making it to the African continent. So East 7 takes place wholly in the kingdom of Altago, which, as I said, Adol had been trying to get to since the beginning of East 1. Adol and Dogi, of course, as soon as they get there, wind up getting entangled with the local police, as one does, and end up in foreign prison, as one does.
Hate when that happens.
Adol's reputation precedes him, though, and they're actually called upon by the fucking king himself to investigate a series of strange earthquakes. Basically, like Adol's penchant for uncovering ancient cataclysms strikes again. And Adol learns about the immortal beings known as the 5 dragons. So, according to legend, the 5 dragons predate the Eldine, but not the Eternians. So I guess they come between those two.
It's the middle step in the dinosaur to angel evolution.
Sure. Right. The 5 dragons are the Earth Dragon, which oversees growth and age, the Flame Dragon, which is power, the Wind Dragon, which represents peace, the Sea Dragon represents prosperity, and the Moon Dragon is global harmony.
It's
their purpose,
Captain Planet.
This is, I think, the closest tie to your like Eastern religion, you know?
Yeah.
Their purpose
Captain Planet.
and Captain
Fuck,
Planet.
man.
Yeah.
And Captain Planet, yes, Kyle.
Oh,
If these 5 dragons combine at the end of East 7,
they of course, Kyle, come on, of course they do. If there are 5 elemental dragons, there is no other option for them but to combine into one super being.
Oh man,
they're gonna Voltron up here, Kyle. You know it to be true.
So their purpose is to sustain and balance all life. The 5 dragons then establish the 5 tribes of Altago and are all worshipped individually as gods for those particular tribes. Unfortunately, one of the 5 tribes did the thing, upset the balance, and tried to an attempt to call forth the wind of destruction, which will summon the root of all existence.
Okay.
The root of all existence.
The anime thing A will make anime thing B happen.
It's the Ragnarok. This will end all life entirely. Adol then travels to each of the 5 tribes to receive the blessing of their respective dragon god to become the dragon warrior, aka
by your powers combined, I am the dragon warrior.
Yeah.
He does this and is successly able to stop the Ragnarok.
Shut up! Is it really called that?
No, that's
I
true.
that.
That's too much.
That was an editor's note.
I mean, listen. We've been calling Germany German, so
Garmin,
yeah,
GPS.
My bad.
Rome is Rom though, and Greece is Greek. That's the best one to me.
I wish they would have made it like Grick.
Crick. Okay, so the last but not least, East 9 Monstrum Nox. So this is the one that just came out earlier this year.
Monster Night in, I'm assuming, Latin.
Yeah.
It's called Leighton.
That was good. That was a slow burn. That was good. Monstrum Nox is the latest in the series, also chronologically the last. So Adol is now currently 24. This all happened in 6 years, y'all.
Yeah, it's wild.
Adol finds himself in Balduc in the Gilia region, which is kind of close to Ys. This is actually France, or what I assume is France, so the farthest removed, like the most different its name. Balduc is known as the prison city, due to the large prison that's housed in the middle of the city. Also, the fact that it's closed off by these massive fortress walls. Not a friend of either ships or cops. Adol gets arrested by some Roman guards and thrown into a Balduc prison.
Wait, I've seen this one before.
While attempting to escape, Adol encounters this mysterious woman with gun. I should be clear, guns are very rare in this world. This is still like the 16th century.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Right. This gun turns him into what's called a monstrum, which is an X-Man. He turns into an X-Man.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're doing an X-Men. So Adol gets superpowers and the ability to glide in the air like Knuckles.
Amazing.
All right.
So this is the probably the Assassin's Creed entry in the franchise.
Yeah, pretty much. This also turns Adol into an awesome goth edgelord, and he goes by the name Crimson King.
Okay,
and he is shown on Image 20.
Dude, Crimson King fucking rules.
Yeah,
It
man.
does.
Yeah, it sure does.
And he's not like super like. There's definitely like when I talk about edgelord, like this is like very wholesome edgelord. Like this is like the yellow card of edgelord.
Yeah, this is your like
yellow card of edgelord.
like your early 2000s-ing of an old franchise where it's
Belts
like
and
edgy
straps.
belts and straps, but in a
2.
good way. Yeah.
Jack 2, baby. Apparently this game is really good. It does it like a couple of trailers that I watched. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna play this as soon as I'm done with Lacrimosa. And then so the whole point of 9 is Adol, using his new superpowers, has to solve the curse plaguing the city of Balduc and fight all the bad monsters and also probably the cops. So cool.
Right on.
What is this image that you've put in our Google Doc?
Well, it's Thrax, the bad guy from Osmosis Jones.
That's like the third time you've brought up Osmosis Jones this month.
Really?
Maybe it wasn't you. Somebody else. That's not the first time I talked about Thrax from Osmosis Jones. Like,
Osmosis Jones is semi-trending on TikTok these days as well.
Okay.
Oh, weird. I'm not on that app. I burned out my Tim Allen references, so I had to move on to Bill Murray.
Wait, did Bill Murray voice the?
No, Bill Murray was live action.
Bill Murray
is the
is
zookeeper. Yeah,
he is
I know
the
that.
Bowser of the Bowser's Inside Story that is Osmosis Jones.
Who is that reference for?
For all of us.
Yeah. People
All
who
right.
listen to this stupid podcast. Do you know how much
That's
we
fair.
talk about Bowser's Inside Story?
That's fair. That's
it's like
fair.
once a month.
It is a lot.
Enough.
It is a lot. We also have a picture of the Crimson Chin. Great.
That's the real Crimson King.
Yeah. So that's East, guys. Man, this was so much fun. What? Why?
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
Oh, boy.
Why?
Matt,
What
do you
is
know what
this?
it is?
Yeah, it's the King Crimson album cover.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
King Crimson.
in Court of the Crimson King.
Yeah, wow.
My
that
dad had
got me.
had bootlegs of King Crimson, so I've never seen the album cover. I've heard the songs, but I've only heard the bootlegs.
Andrew, I really like what you did here today.
Yeah, I
It's
do
so much
too.
fun, right?
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's solid, and
I-
not once did we fight God with the power of friendship.
I
No.
kind of want to watch. I want to watch like the anime of this.
So there is an anime that was made.
I want to take it back. I didn't think I was gonna get my bluff called.
Join
No, I
us
would.
next
I would.
month
Your
when
bluff.
Todd does
Yeah.
the flavor text on the
There-
Yeast anime.
There is an East anime. There was an anime made in the 90s that recounts 1 and 2. I do not know if it's good or not. There are some really good anime cutscenes or animated cutscenes, especially of the
Cool,
older
yeah.
remakes that are legitimately solid. Like you can just search YouTube. Also, again, like I'll just put this out there. All the games are on Steam. Listeners, it's too late for you, but hey, you three, for the next 3 hours, you can get any old East game for 70% off on Steam. So that's something.
Can't play them on Mac. I already looked.
Can't play them on Mac. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I had a hell of a time doing this. I'm going to keep playing these games. Full disclosure, I bought 1, 2, 3, and 4 and Origin, so and 8, and I will probably buy 9. So I'm locked in, baby.
If I can pick up 8 or 9 on PS4 for cheap, I might poke around at one of those. This looks fun, and again, I just super appreciate that. Like, more or less, the story is continuous and not like gobbledygook like Final Fantasy gets sometimes. And this is.
Lacrimosa of Donna is a little, it's timey-wimey, but I never once, it's certainly no Final Fantasy. Like it's definitely like, it's still very grounded. And because again, like it does a really good job of mirroring our own world. So like everything in this world has some sort of connection to a myth, something that you've heard in other storylines. I mean, this is very much like, it's got the same vibe as like an Indiana Jones or a National Treasure. Like it's that kind of thing. It's very much like ancient, like exploring ancient civilizations and finding treasure and all that stuff. Like it's very much that kind of fantasy.
The names mean something to you, even if they mean something different in the game, and like it's close enough that you will connect with it for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else? Parting thoughts, questions, comments?
Yeah, I hated this way less than I expected to. Anytime we do a flavor text about a JRPG or an anime, I just come in expecting to hate it, which I probably shouldn't do, but I do it anyway. And I liked this. I think really up until you kind of lost me around Oath of Felghana, but like up until that, everything was like, I was getting it. It was really chronological. And honestly, even at the end of East 8, I was with you. Once you get into like 7 and 9, I got a little bit lost. But like,
and part of that is because I don't really know much what happens. Like literally, the Wikipedia entry is like 1 paragraph.
Yeah, for sure. But just like for me to follow a JRPG storyline through 6 games is incredibly above average. Like, goddamn. So that was pretty cool. I liked it. Fun story. Like the art a lot. Like how colorful it is.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Pretty. Sick.
Never gonna play it, but cool.
Yeah. Watch a long play. It's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Debate This. You can follow along with the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. One more time, we are changing up our Patreon tiers. If you want to commission a flavor text, yes, that's right. You listening at home can commission your own flavor text. You can make us talk about whatever we want. Maybe if you want us to talk about East 9 Monstrum Nox,
and
we'll do that
by then.
I'll probably have played it by then. Or whatever else. E7, it's fine. Go to patreon.com/debatethiscast. That tier is the $25 tier. For $25. And when you're at that tier for 3 months, you will have the option to commission your own flavor text. Boom. So one more time, that is patreon.com/debatethiscast. Until next time, I am Andrew Henderson.
I am Kyle Hina Harper.
I'm Todd. The singular version of East is Oos Thomas.
and I'm Matt, at home with Paula Eldine Cole.
Those are all good.
I was trying to connect those Paula Dean dots.
Yeah,
thank you, Matt.
I had Dogie Hauser, MD, on deck.
And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing set, nerds, or just pay me to play more East games. Bye.